Hello everyone, this is our fourth installment of Stonewall formations. Today we're looking at a game from Buenos Aires 1960 between Samuel Reshevsky with the white pieces and Carlos Guimard with the black pieces. So d4, f5, c4, e6, g3, knight f6, bishop g2, bishop e7, knight f3, castle, d5, and there's our typical Stonewall defense setup. And I want to just say something that I didn't say in the other videos, and I want to speak about the fianchetto setup right here. If you notice, if you look in any manual that discuss theory, all the main lines of the Dutch defense, you always see white with this setup right here, fianchetto setup. And I would like to speculate that the reason is that one of the first plans for black in the Dutch defense, with the f-pawn being already advanced on move 1, was that of the kingside attack, which we discussed: knight f6 to e4, queen e8 to h5, rook f6, rook h6, etc., etc., putting tremendous pressure on the white king side. g5, g4, the pawn storm. So years and years of practice and losses by masters of the white side of this defense decided that, hey, the fianchetto is the best way to protect the king in this particular position. So that's just some food for thought. That's why in the main, according to me anyway, that's why in all the main lines of the Dutch defense you'll see that fianchetto king's position. It's very hard to attack, especially with the bishop there. It's very hard to attack. The best way to attack a fianchetto is to remove that bishop. And you can see the difficulty of that here, especially with the white, with black's dark white light square bishop trapped behind these pawns. But moving on, knight bd2, and this is a different plan by Reshevsky in this game. And he just develops classically, plays a very non-committally in the center here. Queen e8. If you've been following the videos, you know exactly what Guimard's plan is, and that's to attack on the king side here. Knight e5, knight bd7, knight d3. Now you might say, wait a minute, Reshevsky has moved his knight 3 times already. He must be doing something wrong. Well, that's one of the nuances that you'll find in a closed chess position that you won't find in the open chess position. Now, open positions would usually occur after move e4, but in French defense, Carol Khan games, closed position can also result. So in the open game, say like the King's Gambit, or Joko Piano, even Roy Lopez, time is of the essence. And you might have read in the old school chess manuals, say written by Lasker or Taras, that say don't move your piece more than one time in the open and develop quickly. This is true, but generally applies to open games where tactics might arise very quickly in a position. Say for instance, after e4, e5, bishop c4, knight c6, queen h5, mate is already being threatened on the f7 square, just to give you an example. So where in positions where tactics can arise very quickly in a position, time is of the utmost importance. In closed positions, just due to the nature of them being closed and the pawn structures being locked or inflexible for many moves, it allows the players to have time to maneuver their pieces to what they may see as optimal squares, because tactics are an immediate danger. There's no threat of a checkmate or major piece being attacked, and that's why Reshevsky here is able to maneuver his knights. So now we see the installment again of the knights on f3 and d3 respectively. And remember this plan if you play the white side against the Stonewall. It's a very strong plan. Knight e4, rook b1. And here's the new plan that I want to show you. And this is basically the last plan that of the types of plans white employs in the Stonewall. The idea is very simple, and it's akin to the idea in the Queen's Gambit decline. That's to just push b4, b5, exchange on c6, transferring the base from b7 to c6, and then attacking on the c file and using the c5 square sometime as a pivot point for a piece to infiltrate into the position on e6. Also to attack the e6 square, but just in general to put massive amounts of pressure on black's queen side. So g5. So Guimard is basically burning his bridges, as we know that once pawns are advanced, they can't be brought back. b4, bishop f6, knight fe5, knight d6, c5, knight f7, and f4. Now I want to take a moment just to say here that white is better. Yes, he's a long way from winning due to the locked nature of the position, but he has all the space, better piece placement, and better prospects on the queen side. Meanwhile, black has waged a one-dimensional attack on the king side, and that king side attack is going nowhere. And what's left with a failed king side attack is just weakened pawns, which usually leads to a bad ending, which usually leads to a loss. So you don't want to end up in this kind of position as black. And that was the problem for many years when black tried to use a king side attack in the Stonewall, was that white had developed all of these different plans specifically to counter the king side attack, namely b3 followed by bishop a3, exchanging the dark squared bishop, and then in combination with the other plans f3, e4, stalling your knights on f3 and d3, just proved to be too effective and overwhelming for black's one-dimensional plan. So that kind of caused the Stonewall defense to be put out of business. And after the Botvinnik-Bronstein match in '51, you see some sporadic Stonewall games, some of them quite spectacular, but going into the 60s and 70s, you see its practical disappearance at Grandmaster level. Sorry about that update. But you see its disappearance at Grandmaster level until the 1980s, when Nigel Short, Sergei Dolmatov, just a younger generation of players infused it with new and vibrant ideas, such as bringing the bishop from c8 to h5, playing moves like b6, bishop b7. You'll see that in games of Igor Glek. Playing the move c5, playing moves like a5, playing an early knight c6, and playing for e5. Just different plans, and not committing and burning bridges with the stereotypical king side attack. So the game went on, and we see that in spite of the positional disadvantage, that Guimard hung in there and achieved some counterplay. And yes, white was still technically better, but black probably should have held on and draw this game. But he relaxed and made a major blunder, and that's it right there, king e8. And the reason why is because it allows rook a7. Now that the knight is pinned, he can't defend the pawn adequately. And now for rook b8, just simply bishop c7 drives the rook away. So that amounted to a loss by black, and it was a terrible loss. But the point of this game was just to introduce you to another plan to put in your arsenal. If you play d4 against, play against the Stonewall, the rook b1 with this side there. And if you looked at the other videos, you'll be familiar already with the knights here on f3 and d3, and also f3 and e4. So we'll see you on the next video, and hope you enjoyed it.